Okay, in this section we're going to be talking about grouping objects. Now quite often in your design you will notice that you want to design something that's a little bit more complicated than what's available to you as basic shapes. There are other shapes available and we'll be looking at that when we build the house. So what we need to do is to actually be able to make up a new object with the basic shapes, and whatever you do to the object, all the basic shapes change accordingly. So for example, if we was to change its size or its colour, everything in that more complex shape will also change accordingly. So on the screen you'll see that we have a cube, the yellow cube, a flat green plate and a cylinder. I'm simply going to zoom in. I'll just press the F key there for those that didn't see that part of the lesson last time. So here we have a closer view. I want to move the cube on top of the plate, so I'm clicking on it and then left click and dragging it. So let's say that I've got that in exactly the right position we want. In a future lesson we will be looking at how to align these automatically so they're dead centered exactly, but this isn't what we want to do here. So we've got this basic shape, and the problem is that once you've moved, let's say the plate, if you move the plate, the cube itself will stay put. And what we want to do is that when we move one part, the rest of the design goes with it. But also when we resize it, so for example, if I was to resize it, you will see the cube will stay at the same size. So how do we do that? What do we do so that when we change one parameter, everything else changes as well? Well, the first thing you need to do is to select the objects that we want them all to have the same, be a part of the same team, so to speak. So I've selected them and I've highlighted them. As you can see now, they're selected. Now moving to the top part of the menu, you'll see there's an option here for group, which on your keyboard is Control G. I'm going to click on that, and when I click on that you will see that the two objects that I selected are now the same colour. More importantly, when I click on it I can move it. You see that? And I'm clicking on the cube now. Let me now click on the plate which was at the bottom, move the plate, and everything moves with it. Okay, so those are now been grouped. Now if you've made a mistake or want to make a tiny change or any changes to your grouped object, here we have the ungroup button, which is Control Shift G. Control G to turn it into a group, and in the shift to that will actually turn it back to basic objects. If I was to click on that, you'll see now I have my cube back, and I'll prove that by simply clicking on the cube and then moving it. You'll see now that changes position on the plate, but also they've changed back to their original colours. So I'm going to select those again and I'm going to group them. So we've got one solid colour, so that means they're one solid item. I'm going to now click on the cylinder, and you may well have noticed that when you can change colour, you can also change it to something called a hole. Now, you might have played with this, you might not have played with this. I did suggest that we're going to look at this in more detail. So here we are. So I'm going to click on that, and as you can see, it changes colour. It changes to the same colours as these two over here. It's got a sort of glassy colour, which means that it's a hole. Now, what you can do with a hole is you can move it wherever you want it. Let's say I want it just there. Can you see that? Just there. And you can see what it might look like if a cylinder-shaped hole was to actually be taken out, bitten out, so to speak, of the solid object. What I'm going to do is, if I group a solid object with a hole, I want to see what happens. So I'm going to click on that by grouping it, give it a moment, and now you'll see as if by magic, that shape has now had a cylinder shaped hole taken out of it. And you could do that with any other shape as well. So if I was to do that with a sphere, I'm just going to make the sphere a bit smaller. Hold down a bit smaller. I'm going to lift it off the bed like that. I'm going to change that into a hole, and I'm going to move that. Just going to change its position to roughly where I want it. In the next lesson I'll be showing you how to move these very, very precisely and very accurately. So there you have a transparent globe inside the bitten out the hollowed out area of the object. So I'm grouping all of those together, and now I'm going to group those two. And if you look here, it says shapes 2. There are 2 shapes. There's the solid object, which is grouped 3 shapes together: the box, the plate and the cylinder. And the cylinder cut that out, but also the new shape now of the sphere. So I'm going to group those together and give that a moment, and now you'll see that there's now a sphere shaped hole in the main body of the grouped object. Now the other thing you could do with this, and I'll do that now actually, is we can actually turn this into a hole as well by clicking on the hole shape. That is, now you can see through that, you can see the actual shape. So if I was to bring on an object, let's see that, let's just make that bigger. There we go, bigger. If I was to move that, in place, I'm just using the arrow keys on my keyboard to move it around. I'll go into more detail in a future lesson. So I'm going to select all of those. I'm going to shapes, and I'm going to group them. And I want you to see what happens when I move around to this side. Go underneath it. Actually, you can actually see what's happened. The sphere and the cylinder are now solid shapes within the hollowed out area of the larger box, the larger cube. So I hope you found that interesting and useful. Now I want you to have a good play with this, because this is very important parts of 3D design, especially when you're designing something to work on, say, a 3D printer, where you need certain shapes and certain hollowed out areas. So before you go to the next part of the lesson, please have a good play with it. Spend as much time as you need to until you fully understand it. I'll see you in the next section.